I feel like somebody's starting to smell the coffee. You're starting to smell the coffee. Good morning. I hope you guys are finally smelling the coffee. We have seen players say you guys are being greedy. Players, Brianna Stewart, players are calling the WNBA greedy, and maybe that meeting with the players at Athletes Unlimited is also making you wake up.
Brianna Stewart keeps saying, smell the coffee, and she's serious. After 17 months of stalled talks, something finally changed in the WNBA's contract negotiations. But it wasn't because the owners decided to pay more. It happened because the players realized they might have pushed too hard. While everyone was posting on TikTok about equal pay and threatening to skip the season, another league, Athletes Unlimited, was quietly talking to WNBA stars. That suddenly changed the mood, and now negotiations that had been stuck since December 2024 are finally moving.
Man, listen, this has been a hellacious ride of a CBA negotiations. This is going back to this time, before this time last year. This is going back to January, December 2024. Like, this is going back so far. Late 2024, early 2025. With Angel Reese and Dejanay Carrington on Unrivaled on her podcast before the inaugural season of Unrivaled, talking about it. If they don't give us what we want, we sitting out. That's it. We sitting out. I can already tell. Unrivaled, this is going to be the only league that people playing. This is going to be the only league. This goes back that.
Let's look at the timeline because this has been building for over a year. In late 2024, Angel Reese went on her Unapologetically Angel podcast with Nneka Carrington before the first Unrivaled season. She sent a clear and bold message: give us what we want, or we'll sit out. That was just the start. By January 2025, things heated up. Players started using social media to make demands that didn't match the league's finances. The WNBA lost $40 million in 2023 and expected to break even or make a small profit in 2025, the first time in its 29-year history. Still, some veteran players were asking for pay packages that would have caused huge losses. It got even more complicated because the WNBA Players Association, led by President Nneka Ogwumike and vice presidents like Stewart, approached negotiations in what one player later called a greedy and selfish way. And that wasn't the media twisting things, that was a player speaking about her own union leaders.
It says, this is a quote from Brianna Stewart, our recent CBA proposal that we got. There's movement, there's traction. We're finally headed in a direction, so I'm excited. Now, this don't mean that these crazy ladies are going to agree to any deal, okay? Does not mean that at all. Let's go over to Sports Illustrated, where here it says Brianna Stewart gives a telling update on WNBA CBA negotiations. Now, let's be clear. I think the offer that the owners put in is absolutely fair enough. These players.
Now we get to the main issue. In early February 2025, the owners made a big offer. Raised the salary cap from $1.5 million in 2025 to $5.65 million in the first year of the new CBA, a 277% increase. They also promised housing for all first-year players, anyone on a minimum contract, and 2 developmental players per team, plus set standards for practice facilities across all 12 teams. By any measure, that's a huge offer. But many veteran players won't still be in the league when the next CBA comes around in 7 or 8 years. They're trying to get as much as possible now because it might be their last chance to benefit personally. For them, the future of the league comes second to their own pay before retirement. That anonymous player who called the union leadership greedy wasn't wrong. Focusing only on maximizing short-term earnings while the league is finally nearing profitability is the definition of short-term thinking.
CBA optimism after recent proposal. However, it appears this proposal was much closer to what the players are seeking, which Stewart conveyed during a February 11 episode of Game Recognized Game podcast. The CBA proposal that we got, there's movement, we got traction, we're finally headed in a direction, Stewart said. So I'm excited. I'm excited to hopefully negotiate back and really kind of do the negotiations, because unfortunately it has been 18, 17 months and we haven't negotiated. We've just been fighting about, well, we don't like your proposal, you don't like our proposal, and nobody's going to budge. Here she said, it's been pretty frustrating, but I've been trying to be as involved as I can. Stewart continued. She later added, I'm feeling better.
Dynamic changed not because the owners gave in, but because Athletes Unlimited got involved. Athletes Unlimited is a different women's basketball league with its own model, and they started talking to WNBA stars about what a competing league could offer. That made the WNBA players face a hard truth: if they push too hard and stop playing, they're not just hurting the owners, they're risking all the momentum the league gained in 2024, especially with Caitlin Clark's rookie season bringing record ratings and attendance. Fans might lose interest, and top talent could go to a league that doesn't have a messy negotiation. Brianna Stewart's recent comments show this new understanding. She said, "Now that we're part of a revenue-sharing model, you miss games, it's less money." That's the coffee she's smelling. Under revenue sharing, players' pay depends on the league making money, no season, no revenue. It's simple economics, but it took 17 months and a competitor league to make that clear.
I'm feeling better. The owners are finally acknowledging and being receptive to what we want. The players as well. We've all had to kind of put our business hats on and get into that mindset. And I'm hoping we can get this thing done quickly so we're not late. All right, yeah, because, I mean, listen, man, time is ticking. A deal needs to be done like in the next few weeks for the season to not be pushed back. She was also quoted as saying, and that's the thing I've been telling them, is now that we're a part of a revenue sharing model, you miss games, it's less money. And not to say that we should submit and just say yes to any proposal that we don't like. This is a business now, and that's how businesses go. The entire women's basketball community will be keeping its eye on this story to see how it develops as the 2026 regular season inches closer. So that is pretty much what Brianna Stewart had to say about
public perception became really important. In October 2024, after the Minnesota Lynx were knocked out of the playoffs, Nafisa Collier spoke to the media and criticized Commissioner Kathy Engelberg. At first, the women's basketball community strongly supported the players. Social media was full of messages like, "Pay them what they deserve. The owners are greedy." But over the next few months, as more financial details came out and the players' demands became more extreme, public opinion started to shift. People began asking reasonable questions. If the league has never made a profit, where would the money come from? If the salary cap quadruples and the league loses tens of millions again, who really benefits? A Yahoo Sports segment captured this change, showing the conversation moved from fully pro-player to a more balanced view that considered the league's finances. It wasn't that people stopped supporting the players, it was that the union overplayed its hand, and it backfired.
Go over to Yahoo Sports, as they had some recent content addressing the state of the CBA and things going on.
Their proposal that they submitted to the union. The details are that in terms of housing, which have been standard since the first CBA in 1999, teams have to provide housing for players on a first-year deal, players on minimum contracts, and for those 2 developmental players per team that it is introducing in its CBA proposal. The salary cap was also up to $5.65 million in year 1. Their previous proposal was around $5.5 million. And the last year, so 2025 salary cap was $1.5 million. And then there are just certain verbiages around practice facilities, what they should give to players, provide to players, have for players, rather than what we've seen in the past where a lot of teams are going with the most elite and other teams are kind of just practicing at the
Let's
local
break down what's actually in the latest proposal, because the details matter. The salary cap would go up to $5.65 million, slightly higher than the previous $5.5 million offer, showing the owners are willing to negotiate. More importantly, the proposal includes housing for rookies and minimum salary players and sets standards for practice facilities, real improvements for players' quality of life. Some teams have been using local gyms while others have state-of-the-art facilities, so this is a big step. The housing guarantee also helps players in expensive cities like New York and Los Angeles. But some of the bigger demands aren't included. Private charter flights, NBA-level salaries, and guaranteed contracts for everyone regardless of performance aren't part of the deal. The owners are basically saying they'll invest more in pay and conditions, but it has to be sustainable. They don't want to lose $40 million a year again, and more fans are starting to agree, wanting the league to grow long-term rather than pay huge contracts for a few years and then struggle.
Well, it sounds like the league is saying, okay, there are certain things that you want, like you mentioned, housing and standards for practice facilities, all things that are understandable and things that the league are saying, yeah, okay, like we're willing to bend the knee to make sure that you're getting what you need, make sure that we get what we need, and as the league as a whole. But it's fascinating to watch all of this unfold, Cass, because I felt like at the very beginning, let's go back to, right after the Lynx were bounced for the postseason, when Nneka Collier had her media availability, she had a lot of very bold and choice things to say about Kathy Engelbert. In that moment, I felt like the women's basketball society as a whole was so pro-player, was pay them what you owe them. And, they need better. They deserve better. They demand better. They should demand better. It was very pro player. And I feel like there has been this shift in the court of public opinion and in public perception that feels a little bit more pro league. Now, I don't think that it should be, okay, you're either pro league or you're pro player and there's no in between. Of course, it's not always black and white. There has to be a little bit of gray. But it does kind of feel like there's been a little bit of a shift. So where things are right now, league versus players, how are both sides handling this?
Well, in terms of public perception.
See, I think that this lady is on to something, and I'm gonna continue to sprinkle this through, because they have really good content, you guys. But I mean, ultimately, the players are starting to have reality set in, and that's just kind of what it is, man. They need to get this deal done. Get down in the comments, let me know what you think.
As training camps approach, Brianna Stewart says she feels better about the direction and sees progress, what she calls movement and traction. But feeling better doesn't mean a deal is done, and time is running out. The 2025 season is supposed to start in May, and if the CBA isn't finalized soon, the season could be delayed. Under the new revenue-sharing model, players directly lose money for every game missed, while the owners can weather delays more easily. Expansion adds another layer, the Golden State Valkyries in 2025 and Toronto in 2026 bring growth and investment, but only if there's actually a season. Veteran players spent over a year positioning themselves as fighting for future equity, but many were really trying to maximize their personal earnings. When Athletes Unlimited showed interest, and players realized a work stoppage might hurt them more than the owners, they became willing to compromise, not for the sport's future, but to protect their own interests. That said, the players' grievances are real. The WNBA has relied on NBA subsidies for decades, working conditions have often been substandard, and the revenue-sharing model they pushed for is smart long-term. The problem has been how the negotiation played out publicly. Aggressive social media complaints, sit-out threats, and unrealistic demands made the union look greedy and turned public opinion against them. Anonymous criticism from within the union only added to the damage. The irony is the players probably could have gotten a similar deal 6 months ago if they had negotiated differently. Now, Stewart is the voice of the union, using careful words like movement and traction to show progress without committing, while everyone waits to see if both sides can actually finalize the deal before the season starts. The owners have shown they're willing to invest, and the players are finally facing financial reality, but the deal could still fall apart if egos or unrealistic demands get in the way. Ideally, the players should accept the current proposal, maybe tweak a few minor points, and move forward. That way, the season starts on time, momentum from 2024 continues, and everyone benefits. But if the union pushes for more, negotiations could drag on, the season could be delayed, fans and sponsors get frustrated, and the league's progress stalls. Brianna Stewart's smell the coffee moment is about realizing the players' leverage was always limited. The owners can wait, but the players' careers are short. The owners aren't perfect, they've been slow to invest, allowed uneven conditions, and underpaid players, but in this case, they made a reasonable offer addressing most core concerns, while the union spent 17 months refusing to negotiate seriously. The 2024 season proved the WNBA has massive potential with proper marketing, star power, and new media deals, but that growth only matters if revenue is split sustainably. Fans should be frustrated with everyone, the owners for being slow, the union leadership for overplaying their hand, the media for oversimplifying, and players for airing complaints publicly. A deal now seems likely, but it took 17 months, a competitor league, and near disaster to get here. The question is whether the players are being realistic or just caving, whether the owner's offer is generous enough, and if both sides can actually finalize it before the season starts. The coffee has been smelled, but will anyone actually drink it?